Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Grizzly Chris from Bigfoot Outlaw. This is going to be an epic, legendary episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. I do hope everyone is ready to hear about a supposed new LBL witness from the infamous massacre. Yet I am hungry. Much better and absolutely delicious now that I am fully charged, amped up, and ready to rumble. It is now time for Grizzly Chris and myself to take a walk into the darkness. My creatures, once again, yes, it is time for another Midnight Lycanthropy. We will be owning the night. And guess what? We have an amazing co-host tonight. One of my really good friends, Grizzly Chris from Bigfoot Outlaw, and he's going to dive into the Dogman phenomenon with us. Chris, how you doing tonight, friend?
Oh, doing wonderful. Thanks for having me tonight.
Of course, it's always great to link up with you. I've had a couple chances to be on your podcast, and I really respect what you do and your knowledge. So it's excellent to have you here as well, friend.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Of course. I would love to pick your mind just in general about your opinion of the dog man. So first, let's start with that, but then let's kind of pick apart the potential LBL area a bit.
Okay, great.
Excellent. What's your overall consensus of a dog man? What are your thoughts? I mean, you're educated enough. You've spoken to us a ton. You have access to what I'm posting, what the North American dog man's posting. But I would like to hear your opinion on the whole phenomenon.
So there is something that walks upon this earth. There is something that does live and breathe our air. There is something that is being seen. There is something that is terrorizing people on this earth. Yes, I do believe in that. We also have things that are being seen from people in the Bigfoot world that are unexplainable, that people cannot believe what they're seeing because it's not Bigfoot and it is a canine walking on hind legs, bipedal. So what can you say about that?
Nightmare fuel first. Yes, exactly. Those are all super valid answers right there and a valid statement. And as I always try to project into my conversations and interviews with people is the dogman phenomenon ranges all the way back to 290 BC. And you being a Bigfoot guy and realizing that and just stating what you stated, you're pretty intelligent in regards of what you're trying to do. I'd consider you an expert. You definitely can differentiate what's going on between, say, a Sasquatch or if you are potentially seeing something that looks canine-ish. So yeah, of course, there must be something occurring.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you go back to last year on my trail cams, right, that I put out, we have something that could be possibly Bigfoot on one set of trail cams, but then we captured something else that is quite puzzling that we do not know what it is. We cannot say for sure. However, with the other set of trail cams we put out from October to February, we clearly show the difference between animals that get on the camera and come up to the camera, whether it's deer, raccoon, possums, birds, whatever, turkeys. We still cannot explain what that one image we caught last year. And when you first see it, it makes you stop in your tracks and you look at it and you're like, that looks like fur, right? Like of a canine. And the cameras we put up are 6.5 feet off the ground. Now, I live right outside Louisville, Kentucky, and we do not have bears. So that rules out that. So, but then you look at other places across the nation, Michigan, down there in land between the lakes, and some places in Tennessee, Oklahoma, the Smoky Mountains, the Appalachian Trails. Things are being seen that people cannot explain, that are not supposed to be in our reality or our world. And people also, I will say this on record, are going missing in our state and national forests and parks, that people do not want to go on record and explain that to us as well.
Again, 100% valid. And to my audience, if you're not familiar with Grizzly Chris, he is former law enforcement. So he is very, very familiarized with the techniques and researching and understanding the whole consensus of how a situation could unfold. We're talking to a man that is highly specialized in regards as to what he did just state. And yeah, people are going missing in a ton of various ways that are very intriguing. And when you spoke of that trail cam fur looking canine-ish, did I send you that potential canine Dogman fur that was sent to us in that tree branch on the farm where people were potentially having issues with this creature?
Yes, it does. That is similar. That is correct. And when I showed my picture on the air, of course, everybody in the audience chimed in, and they're like, "That's not Bigfoot hair," because a lot of Bigfoot hair that we are familiar with can be in different colors, right? Black, gray, brown, like a calico cat, and also clear hair that we know if you look underneath the microscope. But usually it's long, thick, and coarse, right? But if you look underneath the microscope as well, you can tell it's different structure compared to human hair. But this hair looks like your hair, and it's very different. It doesn't look like a raccoon hair. It doesn't look like squirrel hair. It looks like, well, I hate to say it, but once again, something that you would see on a werewolf or a dogman. I mean, I said it, so yeah.
Now, that's why I wanted to ask you that, because that picture that was sent to us just on the tree branch, that's why I thought of you. And I actually hadn't even heard what you had just stated about your own image on your trail cam. That's why after you had just stated that, I thought I had sent you that image. So that actually has my brain clicking a little bit more, because I agree. That hair is extremely strange looking for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we were talking on one of the shows, I think the last week, what is Dogman and what is Bigfoot or Sasquatch, right? And everybody's got their own theories, and everybody has their own theories and why you cannot find them and where they live, and which is fine, to each their own. But if you go back to biblical reference, right, and you look at the Nephilim, you look at Melbourne's, what is it, the DNA that she did back in 2012, 2013. And if you go out to her website, she has the Sasquatch DNA. I didn't know if you was familiar with that or not.
I actually was not familiar with that. I did know that Jeff Meldrum had some DNA that he was able to get on, I believe it was one of the Monster Quest episodes back in the cabin in Canada. Sasquatch was terrorizing it, and they ended up putting not Meldrum in the Monster Quest crew, but the people that own the cabin put down a plywood platform with screws in it to try to keep whatever was doing this to their cabin away.
The bears, right.
Yeah, and this human type bloody foot as a step down on it, and they were able to pull some DNA off of that. And I know there's been a couple other times they were able to get some DNA from hair samples too, but I also know Meldrum has had some of his stuff taken and not returned. To I guess have you in a second elaborate on what you just stated. I kind of have a theory that, so you've heard of me say before, when I use the term dogman, I'm not just, okay, dogman is like a triangle in regards of you have coyote man, you have bear man, you have people that have seen something that looks more fox man, like a jackal, etc. Those are under the category of dogman. You have baboon, hyenas. Well, a baboon and hyena are not canine. So some of the canine DNA that has been taken from some of the dogman cases, yes, that would be still dogman DNA. Yet a hyena is not related to a canine nor a feline, but would be more closely related to a feline. So if you got DNA from a type 3 potential dogman encounter, yes, it wouldn't be canine DNA at that point in time. Same thing with the baboon type encounters people are having. At one point in time, there was a Dinopithecus. It was an enormous baboon that could have easily traveled across the land bridge as well as other animals at that point in time. So what if some sort of relative or ancestor of the Dinopithecus is being seen and it would have the pointy ears so it would look like a deranged baboon type werewolf? Again, if someone got DNA from that, it wouldn't be canine, it would be baboon or something hominoid along the lines of that. So I think a lot of people don't completely understand just the term dogman doesn't necessarily fully mean every version that people are seeing is going to be canine based DNA.
Right. Now, this is Melbourne Ketchum. And if you go to Melbourne Ketchum's website, I think they have 8 to 12 samples allegedly of Sasquatch. And when they did the DNA sequence, it will show you that they have the mother sequence of the DNA. But when they get to the nuclei, for the father, it is not human. Now, explain that.
That's mind-boggling. Without even you having to answer this, you probably don't fall into the category of thinking it's a relative of the Gigantopithecus then?
I don't know. Scientists are baffled. I have seen studies, other Bigfoot phenomenon, big researchers like Ron Moorhead and some other big people in the Bigfoot phenomenon have put their theories out there on what this creature is. Now, however, if this thing is, Nephilim related, and people are now they're supposed to be, Melbourne's also supposed to have dogman DNA. Now, I don't know what the study is on that, but if you go back to biblical reference, Nephilim also had relations not only with humans, but with animals and other things, correct?
You are going to have to educate me on this because I have no problem admitting this to my audience. I'm super, super spiritual in regards of just trying to be kind to the earth and animals and be a good human. Yeah, I'm not religious, so I've never really dove into the Bible too much. I've heard some of the references that you are making right now. Do you want to elaborate on some of that before I ask my next question? That would be excellent.
Yeah, so Nephilim valued the fallen angels, fell in love with earthly women, and they had relations, right? They had contact and had children. But they also, the fallen angels, had relations with animals. So if that's the case, that's possibly why we have these other cryptids in our world that we cannot explain. That's just some of the theories that people that are in cryptozoology is starting to come to a realization. And that's why Ron Moorhead's book of quantum mechanics, quantum Bigfoot, and everybody else. And this is where they're starting to take that leap and look at the boundaries of where all these cryptids coming from. Because if you look at the DNA study, it's mind blowing, and scientists cannot figure it out. It just does not make any sense.
That is definitely very, very intriguing and interesting. I would want to ask you, where would you think the references you were just making and explaining right there, I guess, where would you put the cynocephali then at that point in time, say 290 BC with Herodotus and Alexander the Great. Would that have been just potentially? That's kind of where I think the Dogman origins are. I think that's mostly what the traditional type of Dogman would have been before you fast forward to World War One and more of the modern times when you know that people are experimenting and doing things with animal mutations now. Yet back then it seemed that they were just a living species, such as the Greeks, Romans, or any other race.
See, at this point, I couldn't even answer that because I have no idea, because we are still learning about species every day that we don't even know if they exist, right? We have monsters that are washing up on beaches that we don't even know that they're there. And what's the first thing they do? They get a bulldozer, dig a hole, and bury it instead of taking it back on a flatbed and studying it.
Yeah, I've been actually educated recently that we do know less about the ocean and cave systems than we do outer space, and we really don't know too much about
That
outer
is that
space.
is correct, right?
So now, like you said, obviously, I mean, just look at some of the species that have been found and that dinosaur fish that was supposed to be extinct that wasn't. So, I mean, there's definitely things in the ocean that we're unaware of. And now I actually touched on this in one of my recent episodes too. So you have the people that go missing and are disappearing. Well, we don't really search cave systems and such, which I know we can't. And even if we really could, like, how far down are you going to search? But I do believe there are a ton of the people that are probably in the cave systems that were taken by something. And I have images that have been sent to me recently, and also encounters where there are strange burrows that are covered up with branches and leaves and bent down trees on the top. But as you look inside, there's really deep, deep burrows that go into the ground. And I've had numerous people tell me about Dogman encounters also digging burrows in the side of riverbeds, and muskrats and other animals do that. Now think of what a trapdoor spider that does the same type of thing. So if someone walks by that area and you're able to see what's going on from underneath all this cover, you could easily grab somebody or an animal and pull them back down into your little dwelling that leads down into a cave system or mine shaft, and no one's going to really know that.
No, absolutely, yeah, you're right. But how long has this phenomenon been around? It's been around since probably before even it's been recorded. And that's the thing, we don't know because this creature, whatever you want to call it, has been called different things throughout history.
That's why I like you, because we're at the point, a lot of these things are super hard to explain and discredit and push away. The 30s, 40s, before technology was really a thing, you kind of bully people and just cover up things. But now with documentation, like you said, I mean, don't get me wrong, people can still go in and easily wipe your hard drive, etc. But it is also easier ways to have duplicates of files saved somewhere else on a hard drive, or share information around. And that's why I get a little bit rubbed the wrong way when people are just purposely trying to distort the information, or not even realizing it that they're doing it, because that then falls into exactly what people that don't want us to know what's going on are sitting back in their armchair laughing that people are posting a video of an obvious man in a ghillie suit and you got 99 people saying it's real.
Right, right. I mean, you have your hoaxers, your wannabes, they're out there. And you have with AI, CIG, whatever you want to call it, they're always going to pull one over you. But if you look at that photograph, that's straight from the camera, unaltered, time, date, time stamped, everything. That's right from the camera.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, I've shared it on my show several times. I have people, hey, you want to tell me what it is? That's fine. Try. I'm always open, and people cannot explain it. And like I said, I've showed pictures of different animals at night that come up and climb on the camera and sniff the camera and daylight and nighttime, and you cannot explain it.
No, I agree with that fully as well. And again, that's why I love how you approach the topic, and kudos again. And honestly, a lot of people say those type of entities will never be caught on trail cams, but I disagree. I think with how stealthy they are and how quick they are, no one's really going to have time to pull your cell phone out and get a quality image. And also Nuxium has a ton of different trail cam images where you can see the trail cam went off in succession, like bang, 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 and you see as the creature is pretty much moving, but very quickly. Say if you and I are out, right? This is my biggest beef with TikTok and all this stuff as well. Someone might do this, but I'm telling you right now, if you and I were out in the LBL or any sort of area exploring, right, and I saw a dogman or something that was out of the realm of my understanding and I felt fear, last thing I'm doing is pulling my phone out. If I turn around
Oh, absolutely.
and I see you pulling your phone out trying to get a TikTok, hey Chris, I love you, man, but I'm still going the other way and I'm probably never gonna see you again, dude, because anyone that thinks they're gonna just record like that, doesn't matter. Show me anyone that thinks they're gonna be able to record a grizzly bear or a tiger like that. It doesn't happen. People seem to forget the understanding that an apex predator isn't seen pretty much until you're done. I mean, how many people really survive when the great white, they see it? Well, that's probably the last thing you're seeing.
I mean, you're seeing a monster that does not exist, right? And
Yes.
I actually got 2 pictures of whatever this thing is because it walked around the tree or ran around the tree. I don't know which. So I got 2 pictures of it. And the pictures was in succession, just like you said.
Yes, exactly, because it's moving. I mean, I have a pet squirrel. You know how hard it is. I mean, unless she's waiting for a nut, okay, you can't. They don't just sit there and pose, okay. Like, think right now, if you and I, as I talk to you, I'm looking out my window. Say this cool bird comes flying by. Okay, by the time I was to get up, get my phone pulled open, really try to get that good image, the odds are that bird is probably gone now. The woodpecker was just there for a second and it's gone. And I think people have just kind of really lost a lot of this common sense when they're like, well, how come no one casted that footprint? Well, maybe the person that was out there with their wife and kids for their day just hiking around doesn't even know what Dogman or Bigfoot or cryptids are. And yeah, they just forgot their big bag of casting material for the day because that's just what they're going to do, carry that around. Or someone's like, hey, why didn't the hunter take a picture? Because I don't know, last time I checked, anyone that's a good hunter that's tracking whatever they're trying to hunt, are they texting on their phone while they're tracking? No, they have their firearm beside them and they're tracking what they do. So you see an unknown entity, oh, wait a second, instead of raising my rifle with the scope on it, I'm going to go into my pocket or my backpack, find my cell phone, and then pull my cell phone out, then zoom in to try to take this. No, if I saw something, I pull my scope up with my gun. What the crap is that? Yeah, no, that looks terrifying. Let me just put down my defense for a cell phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of times they're just missing the common sense about that. Being from the area near the LBL, I guess I would like to know what it is or how you feel about the whole LBL.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. I was just down there in the Colson part of it, and I camped out right below the cemetery, and we did have activity. We think it was Bigfoot related. Had some hollers and some tree knocks, but we did a meet and greet, right, with a lot of Bigfoot people. However, a friend of mine went to Devil's Backbone area, and they were, I want to say, trailed throughout the area. Uh, there's a lot of activity down there, but there's a lot of activity with people down there as well. So, and just because you hear a noise doesn't mean it's a dog man. Just because you hear a tree break doesn't mean it's a Bigfoot, right? So I know people get excited. I know people want to believe, which I want to believe, right? But
Yes,
when you're out there investigating things, one thing that I look at is evidence, the totality. Uh,
you
if I
have
hear
to.
something, I want to see evidence. I want to see tracks. I want to see tree breaks. I want to put more than one thing together to say it is possibly something there. Uh, you know, I don't want to jump to conclusions. There's deer down there. There's large deer. There's animals. Trees fall in the woods. I've been in the woods and heard trees fall, and then, yeah, did it scare the living heck out of me? Yeah, absolutely. But did I think it was Bigfoot at first? I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I did. But once again, and once I calmed myself down and gathered myself, it's natural. And everybody wants to be that person to find that evidence, right? And share it, which I don't blame them. It is exciting. I wish that every time that I go out in the woods, I would find that evidence. I don't. And I wish it was that easy. It's not that easy. You know, it's not that easy, right?
1000%.
You know, it's not. I mean, I know people that go out every weekend and don't find nothing. I know people that go out for 2 or 3 weeks in a row and don't find anything. Then you got some people that go out and every time they go out and they find something. Well, that's great. But you know, trees fall in a certain way doesn't mean it's an X, or certain prints can be, misleading. You just got to be careful and know what you're looking for. So
Keep on preaching. Kudos again. I try to explain that to people a bunch because that is how a researcher should approach something. I'm subjective and objective. I need to be skeptical. I don't know. I've never seen a Dogman, as I stated to you before. I've never had any sort of paranormal activity whatsoever. So I have no connection to any of these images that are posted on our website, that are posted in my Facebook group. I didn't take any of those. My goal is to debunk things, whether it's from a friend of mine or some person I don't know. That it doesn't matter. So I don't care. I don't sleep more at night knowing, hey, this photo hasn't been debunked or this photo is debunked. That's just not how it is. I didn't make those. And I feel like the people that get offended by that are the ones that are potentially hoaxing or wanting to have that groundbreaking evidence. And I think the way to approach it is just gather information, filter through it, verify it, make sure it's verified, and then be able to present it in a scientific type of format.
right. Another thing is too that we're seeing a lot of in both phenomenon is pareidolia. Everybody's using digital cameras and it pixelates, right? Especially when you alter and blow it up, and it happens. And like I said, everybody wants to get that evidence, and I don't blame them. I want to get the evidence, but I showed somebody the other day. I can go out and take 75 photographs in 3 hours, and I can probably show you in the first 15 that I probably captured 25 Bigfoot.
Yes.
But I know beyond a reasonable doubt it's not what it is, and they're not Bigfoot. So that's why I don't show none of my photographs, because I can say it's pareidolia. And that's just, I know how a camera works. I did a show on it a year and a half ago with a camera expert that knows DSLRs and how they use the mirrors and how they pixelate, and I did it for educational purposes. And once again, I know how people want to believe. I want to believe. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to be careful, because we do get excited and we do want to see things, which I do too. I'm not trying to put anybody's evidence down, because I want to believe. But it's not every time we take a picture something's hidden there. Now, I believe in Glimmer Man and the cloaking. I've actually seen videos, the Bigfoot or whatever. Yes, they can. So, is it possible? Absolutely. But we just got to be careful and be cautious.
Again, kudos and preach right there, friend. That's excellent, because I was trying to, with one of my guests the other night, just explain that a little bit of how naturally humans, it's installed into us to have a fear, because that's why we survived giant cave bears and saber-toothed cats from attacking us. If you had a feeling, well, that most likely meant that, yeah, a predator was watching you. We've evolved now, and that's still inside of us, though, that feeling. So like you said, you get yourself now all worked up, whereas back then you didn't really have a chance to get yourself worked up, because that was true, that was happening. But now we get worked up and we know what's going on, or in this area we've read all these reports, and then you go into the forest, yeah, and you start to potentially think you're seeing something. I don't take as much, I shouldn't say that. I do take merit into those images, like you were saying, but it's a true statement. And people's evaluations of how long or how large something is changes based on how you're feeling at the moment. And also, if you don't have something in comparison, it's going to change too. So if you see something in the water that looks extremely large and you're all worked up now, well, you have nothing to compare it to. So you might have taken an image, but to you now, that looked like a 20-foot shark or something. That was crazy. But in
Right.
actuality, it could have been a 12-foot shark, which is still a decent sized shark. We as humans aren't the best when it comes to exact measurements in general without anything to compare by, because our minds are so advanced. We try to piece together the missing parts of that to understand this. And I think, as you were saying, people just too much overlook the topic in regards of thinking just because a picture. I've seen some really quality higher image ones that are pretty intriguing, but then I've seen a ton that get sent to me where people are like, oh yeah, see the ears and all this. And I'm sitting here, Chris, I'm not lying. I'm literally sitting here for like 20 minutes trying to look at it and I don't see anything. And then you tell the individual that and they get upset with you.
Yeah, and they do, right? And one of the things that you want to be when presenting your evidence is that you want to be credible, because you don't want to be where you start to get evidence that is credible and people are going to be like, oh no, here's more blob squabs, right?
Yep.
And I'm very careful when I present my evidence, because when I start presenting my trail cam pictures, when I first put it out there, I show people of pictures of animals that were on the camera, sniffing the camera, so they have something to compare. That way they can't say, oh, that's a raccoon, or, well, that's an animal. Well, now you have something to compare what your mind could think that picture could be. Now it's like, well, no, that's not what that is, because Grizzly showed me what that animal looks like at night sniffing that camera, right? Or sitting on top of that camera.
So you're plugging in the pieces that your mind
Right.
would have been trying to. Yes.
That is correct. And that's the way you do things. And we actually did a show sometime last year on how to present evidence, right? Because a lot of people will not give the backstory. For example, if you're in an area and you're taking pictures of tree bends or sticks that are tree or breaks that are formations of A or X's, why do you think Sasquatch, or why do you think a creature did that? Well, if you put in there that you found tracks or prints, and give us a backstory. This is your research area, and you've been tracking this animal here for 3 or 4 months. And you start putting together a little narrative. Now you're telling us why you believe this is here, or why do you believe Dogman's here, because you found tracks in the creek bed and so forth. Now you see where I'm going with it?
You need to approach it like that, not you, but just everyone in general. And that's actually funny you mentioned that, because Nuxium, our tracker, is stating that it's much better now that people are actually putting down at least something beside a track for comparison. But he says
Right.
that one picture is almost useless to him, because where is the rest of the track so that I can see how long the stepping range was, or when did it drop back down to all fours or back up to bipedal? Where did it come out of the forest? So pretty much that one image is almost, I don't want to say useless, but it really is. And it also leaves a lot of wiggle room where someone could have sat there and spent a whole crap of time to make something look crazy like that in the snow or the sand, which is why they only took one picture of it.
Right, absolutely. And I say the same thing. Take a picture, several pictures of the prints, and take a picture of the succession of the steps as well, and take a picture of the area too. And yeah, absolutely, because you want to set the stage. You want that person to feel like they're there, and you want the person to see as that creature, whatever you're following or whatever was there, as it walked as well. And I totally agree with that concept.
No, and that's really a big reason why I also appreciate your insight on everything, because as former law enforcement, you understand that. And even though Nuxium has nothing to do with law enforcement, as he stated, you need to look at it as like a crime scene. So I do think it's super important to have people that specialize in the regards of, I can look at things, but I'm a journalist, I'm a graphics designer. There's been numerous times where I think a track is nothing, or other times I think it's something, and then Nuxium can come in and really absolutely dissect it. And what you just stated about the dissection. So no, I appreciate people like you a ton. And I guess on a final note here, before we do let you get back to being the legend you are, do you think the LBL massacre happened? And before you give your opinion, I guess I will state I have done a little segment on it. As I said, I try to gear away from it after I stated what I needed to say. I dove into our archive, the North American Dogman Project, spoke to Jody, read all the files, and I gave my opinion of what did occur. Yes, so I kind of closed my opinion on that, but now while I'm speaking to you before I let you go, I would like to just hear your opinion real quick on that.
I will say this. At the end of June, I am interviewing somebody that was on the law enforcement agency that responded, that's going to go on record and explain to me what actually happened.
That is absolutely legendary, and I would love
Yes.
when you speak to them, if you could then again talk to me and Jody, because we have a ton of this stuff from Jan and Glenn and some other individuals that were all around the area around this point in time. So no, that would really help bring some credence to the topic. We need to close the door on that. If it happened, it happened. If not, let's move on as a Dogman researching group. So if we have evidence to state that it did happen or it didn't, I really think that's super important.
It's going to be very interesting to see what this law enforcement officer has to say. It blew my mind because we had another trip planned at the end of April to go to the LBL. And the guy I was going with, this other organization, he was like, we're going to reschedule until June. I'm like, well, why in June? He's like, I think you want to meet somebody. And I was like, well, why is that? He said, you remember the LBL incident in 82? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, somebody wants to talk to you about that. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said he was on a department, an agency, and he actually responded and he wants to talk to you. And I was like, what? And I was like, he's going to go on record? Yes.
No, that is amazing. And then we can also put to rest the whole Roger theory as well. This is great stuff. I appreciate that. And please do, in general, just keep me in mind with any sort of concepts or ideas that you have about the Dogman phenomenon, because like I said, I don't stand on any side. I'm just gathering data, speaking to witnesses, debunking, adding merit and credit to stories. So people like you are also very imperative to what it is that the North American Dogman Project is doing as an organization. I will always appreciate your hard work too and support what you do. And if you ever need anything from myself or the North American Dogman Project, definitely make sure to ask us.
Absolutely, kind sir.
Thank you very much for your time and coming into the Fox Den tonight and hanging out with us. And please do stay safe out there. Let's figure out this phenomenon. And until next time, you be good, Chris.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for everyone who stopped by for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on Star Fox Radio. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm. And until next time, stay safe out there.